Was nothing but a moment. New dress, blue couch in your apartment. I was caught up in the notion, thinking I would be.
Bodies might be too much. Bodies might be too
Anyways, I don't want to take it away from the interview. So let me try giving a real intro. Hey guys, and welcome to Citrus Collective. My name is Randy. This is our first episode. I'm really excited today. We have Meron, who is a singer and songwriter based in Los Angeles. I'm really excited to start sharing her story. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. Meron, if you want to give us an introduction of yourself.
Yeah, I'm from Boulder, Colorado. That's where I was born and raised. My parents are first generation Ethiopian American. And I think in a lot of ways that kind of like influenced my music, especially now, like really looking back. Because that's all we would listen to growing up was just very traditional, like Ethiopian jazz music or just traditional hymns, and stuff. Yeah. And I guess like that, and also like I studied opera at the time because I was like it was really, you were like a performer or you were like in a band, and I never really saw myself being in a band or a group per se. I think I'm a very individualistic kind of person. I work good as a team, but I think especially with my art, like I really like to kind of do it myself as much as possible. So I just kind of did opera music for a while, and then I stumbled upon songwriting. This is such a long version. I'm sorry. I stumbled upon
Please, I love it.
in like high school. I kind of found out like actually through because I was at college at the time, and I found out that like you can make a living as a songwriter, and that was really fascinating to me because you get to like explore so many different genres. You can be like as an artist, I feel like you kind of have like a lane, a sound that's like yours, and you kind of like cater to that. Whereas like as a songwriter, you're kind of more of like a chameleon. And I felt like at the time that was really intriguing to me because I was very new at writing at the time. And so I don't know why, but I just really got the courage to just like move, like just try it. I was like, I'm going to just move to LA, let me network, because you don't need a degree in music. So I was like, what's really holding me back? And I was like, let me just figure this out. And like, I'll give myself like 2 to 3 years. And if I don't like it, if I'm not seeing any type of growth, then like I'll move back and figure something else out. And luckily, I was able to kind of figure my way just by attending like any events that I could find that was music related, and just doing sessions, doing demo work, just trying to get my name out there. And then I think throughout the years, just by loving music and just writing, I think I started to have this like urge to want to figure out my sound and who I am as a writer, because I really went from like not really writing a lot of songs, or just not really writing a lot or at all, to co-writing and collaborating a lot. And as much as I love collaborating, I think there is something special when you can tap in yourself and sort of like tell your own story. And that's kind of how my artist project started, because I just felt like there was more I could do and say as an artist. And I feel like that's the biggest difference between artists and writers is as an artist, you have permission to be a little bit more left leaning in any way that might be. Whereas like a writer, a lot of times you're kind of trying to aim for like things that sound good on like radio or film TV, you know? And yeah, so I think that's kind of how I started my artist project, was through that. And I would just kind of go back listening to the songs like in artists that I were very inspired by when I grew up, which also did include a lot of Ethiopian artists as well, like Teddy Afro, Esther.
Oh yeah.
And also too, like I've been a really big fan of like earlier Coldplay stuff, Bon Iver, and there was like this time period. Bon Iver is so good.
Amazing.
And there was this time period too where it was like a lot of like indie sleaze kind of like like MGMT was kind of big at the time. Even like, I mean, Kid Cudi's a little bit more hip hop, but like he kind of fit in that indie because he worked a lot with like indie people like Rat-a-tat and all of that. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's just kind of very natural for me. And yeah, and yeah. So
Yeah,
short story long.
it's okay. So you mentioned you said something really interesting that you felt like there was a space where you could write your own story more as an artist. What was the story that you were wanting to write?
Um, I think for me, it kind of started more as like a sonic thing. And I actually like even when I first started out, like you can kind of hear like a lot more pop sensibilities in my music.
Yeah.
And I think it was really me trying to like figure myself out a little bit. And but I think especially lyrically too, like I feel like a lot of my lyrics tend to be a lot more like introspective. It tends to be a little bit more like emotional in a way, I guess. And I think that kind of describes me as like a person.
Me
Whereas
too,
like a
because
lot
I
of
resonated. I was like, "Oh, that hit."
yeah.
I think you had a video and it said like one of the songs is like when you found someone you really like, but you know logically you're not supposed to be with them. And I was
You
like,
that-
oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like those are the type of songs I like to write. And I feel like when it comes to like songwriting for other people, I think a lot of times sometimes it works, you know, to kind of come across to come across like as more of introspective, a little bit more emotional. But there will be a lot of times too where um you know, a certain artist or a brief or might ask for something different, you know? And I think that's where like the chameleonness really comes in as like being a writer. Like you have to be very flexible as like a songwriter in a way, if that makes sense. And I think for me, I just really lean into yeah, because it's just my perspective. I don't know. I'm a very I think a lot and I'm very introspective. So I would say it reflects in my lyrics.
So when you're thinking, are you like when you're processing your emotions, are you thinking like this could be a song or like what would be the thing that makes me think like, oh, I do want to turn this into a song versus thoughts that you're just like, no, this is just thoughts that I know will pass. Like I guess what do you use to pick into actual work of your art versus just thoughts?
I think, well, one thing I noticed about myself is I'm not the kind of person that like if I'm going through something, right? Like whether it's like I don't know, heartbreak. Like if I was really like in the process of healing, I actually have a harder time tapping in and writing about that in the moment. It's almost like a retrospect thing for me. Like I don't know why that is, but I feel like it's easier for me to look back at certain things and be able to kind of draw from that as a song. Like a lot of the songs like I put out, they were like from relationships that were like many years ago that I'm very much, you know, over now and stuff and have come to peace with. But I think it's just a little bit easier for me to kind of look back at it and just be like, I don't know, like, I don't know. There's just certain moments where I can look back at it and just be like, oh, you know what? Like, you were a jerk and I didn't deserve that.
I
Or
had that
sometimes,
moment 2 days ago. I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? Like
yeah,
sometimes in the moment you can't tell what's going on, but then when you step away, you're like, oh, this full picture makes more sense. Like I can
yeah,
logically put my emotions aside and now make sense of things that maybe I wouldn't otherwise because you're in the heat of the moment. I get that.
yeah, yeah. One thing I do actually is journal a lot. Like whenever
Ooh.
I'm feeling like really emotional about something, I like just will journal for until until I like feel like it's all out, you know. And sometimes I'll look back at that like months, weeks, how many ever time it's been, and I like kind of go through it and I'm like, oh, actually that's like a really good lyric. Like, you know, how can I build from that? I think songwriting lyrics really started never from a personal space, but actually more of like a like I would just kind of make up little scenarios in my head, or I'd like watch, you know, like I would watch like a show and I'd be like, huh, like how would I feel if I was in that position? And like, I guess trying to think of that in my perspective, if that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think I still write like that a little bit, even if it's my own. Like I kind of almost like look at myself as a third person, if that makes sense, when I write songs.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
don't know.
I mean, writing or just like a lot of creative work where you're doing the output requires you to imagine scenarios that you necessarily aren't in that moment, but you have to imagine what it's like being in that person's place, or just
Yeah.
even having the knowledge of like, and that's why I would say like so much of what we do creativity wise like requires like knowledge of art history. Like you have to know about all these different categories in order to tap
Hmm.
into that feeling or that notion of bringing that time and place in. So I get that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know sometimes you look in your journal and you're like, oh, that hit. You're like, who was I feeling
Yeah.
like? Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, Shakespeare. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so you want to lean more in, so in terms of like your identity, you feel like you're more of as actual artist versus a songwriter and you're getting away from songwriting, or you want to keep doing that?
I mean, I feel like I'm an artist who loves to write songs, a lot of songs. I feel like every songwriter is an artist. I think it's just how you choose to like um it's just what you choose to do with it. If you want to put out songs, then you can, or if you just want to write songs and give it to other people, you still can. I mean, I think Julia Michaels, she's like a really, really big songwriter, and she kind of
I love Julia Michaels.
she's so, yeah, I mean, she's a beast. But I think she's a perfect
Yeah.
example of like an artist who writes a bunch of songs, because I feel like she's so creative and she has her own identity, as a musical artist. And she was writing songs for like many years before she even put out her own music, but she was always like an artist, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
so I think I kind of see myself in that same way. I think I love writing music, and the more I try to tap in on my stuff, um, the more how do I say this? The more I feel like I tap into like my own like artistry, the more I realize like how versatile I am as a writer and as an artist. And I think with that, like I'm very I really just kind of like the idea of just writing songs and just seeing what happens. And there was a time where I would be very precious about the music I made, and I'd be like, I didn't want to give it to other people. I didn't want to, write songs for other people anymore. I just wanted everything to be about me, and all that. But I think I've kind of come a little full circle now, where I don't think anyone is ever above writing for other people. Not that I ever thought that I was, but I think I was just very precious, and I think I was so caught up in like wanting to find my style, find my sound, find whatever. And I think the more I was tapping into that, the more I realized like, there is so much I have to offer. And I think writing for other people is such an honor. Helping people kind of like fulfill their vision is such a great gift. And I want to continue to do that, as long as I can.
Amazing. And what about your music? What are you working on now?
Right now, I'm just kind of writing a bunch of records. I have one song that I'm going to absolutely put out, but I think I kind of want to take my time a little bit before putting out new music. Um, but yeah, I'm just in the writing process right now. I have one song I'm definitely gonna put out, but right now it's just kind
I'm
of just
excited.
gathering songs. Yeah.
I'm excited. Well, I mean, like, where do you start? Like, what is I guess, your creative process when you're going through it?
It actually kind of starts from listening to other people's music first. I think for me, like the best way to like write songs is to listen to songs. And I'll kind of go through, at least for me, like I have playlists that I'm always creating, and I'll always kind of find like the certain like similarities. I'm like, is it the tempo? Is it the sonics? Like, what is it about these songs that I've just like so gravitated towards? And sometimes I'll even try to like recreate tracks as well. And usually what ends up happening is like it kind of ends up not being anywhere near the song anyway. But it kind of gets a vibe going, you know, whether it's like chords and a simple drum beat or you know, like even if it's just like a lyric, like if I'm so inspired by a song, like the concept of a song, I'm like, oh, like how can I spin that my own way? And and it's funny because I used to kind of think that was cheating, but now I really don't think that is at all. I think it's just you're just really learning from people that inspire you and trying to see like, you know, how can I create something like that that's my own. And it almost always never sounds like the references that you might have, you know. And I think that's actually the coolest part. But sorry, but that's how I start is like kind of getting
No,
like
don't
some
be sorry.
back. And then I do this thing called a mic pass where I will literally just have like my microphone and I'll just start improvising. Like I'll record myself and just start improvising melodies. I feel like that's how I usually get some of my best concepts and my best melodies, just by feeling and not overthinking it too much.
What do you mean by improvising? Like, I guess, are you just making up sounds? Like, what is that look and feel
Yeah.
like?
So I guess like, you know, say if we have a track or whatever, I will just literally start hitting record and I'll just make up melodies. Like I'll kind of think of like, okay, maybe the verse can sound like this, and maybe it could hit these pockets, or and maybe the pre-chorus can go lower or go higher, and maybe I want the hook to be a big hook, or maybe I want the hook to be and I think what's really cool about it is like because it goes like you're making it up as you go, so you don't really have a lot of time to think, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's all feeling and usually too like because you don't have time to think like you're just kind of saying random words. Sometimes I'll kind of take words from like a journal entry where I'm like that was a sick line, or you know like sometimes I also like will jot down just like titles, or you know if I overhear or if I read something that I think is really inspiring and cool, I'll like write it down. Even movie titles, anything that I think sounds cool, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment, like I'll just write it down. And usually like it'll kind of piece itself, not all the time, but like usually like it'll piece itself together when I just go on the mic and then I'll just start improvising like melodies, and lyrics start to come out, and almost always that's kind of how I get the concept for my songs, I guess. And I just kind of flow with that, and I try not to overthink. I also started doing this thing too where I time myself because I used to give myself all the time in the world to write songs. But now I give myself like 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, you have 3 hours to, I'll take my time like when it comes to like making tracks, making sure the chords are right, you know, the tempo and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the actual writing process, I don't give myself more than 3 hours to write. And usually there will be some songs that are like not great. And then there will be some songs that have like some really special moments. And I'll just like rewrite that until because I don't think there's anything wrong with rewriting and reusing your ideas until something glues together. And, you know, I think that's the fun of it, really.
So do you feel like the time boxing is what helps you kind of constrain yourself from overthinking? You're like, if I just stop it here, then I can't go too far.
Yeah, yeah. Because then I don't, otherwise I will overthink and I will have a lot of unfinished records. And so I think kind of giving myself time. But I've noticed it has helped. Like if I tell myself like, okay, here are some, you know, pre-made ideas I made, or sometimes like I'll have friends send me some stuff, or I'll just be like find some stuff online that I want, like I'm inspired by. And yeah, if I just give myself like 3 hours, even if it's not great, it's done. And I think that has been a big goal of mine as of late, is just finish your ideas, even if they're not, even if you don't think they're the best, like it's still good to have finished work than like half finished work, you know? Because you just never, like I said, you never know. Like, and if you don't like the idea, there's something in it that you probably do like enough to reuse that anyway. So yeah.
Like aspects of it that you can carry into a different project that you're like, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I get that.
I do that
I
all the
paint. Yeah, I paint. So I have like canvases all over my apartment, and some 90% of them are not done. But I find that I can like take ideas from each of them and then morph it into the next project. So I get that. You have to.
Cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so how many do you have a ton of work out there that's just unfinished? Or is there like songs by Meron where you just will never hear?
I have a lot of songs. Yeah. I do have a lot of that are just like sitting there and that are not finished. And I think I'm the kind of writer that like I kind of similar to Sia. Like she writes like 200, 300 songs a year. And
Wow.
yeah, and not all of them are going to be great. Like it's just there's no way possible that's going to happen. And I would say I write about like 150 to 200 songs a year, and out of those, there's definitely I would say like 10 to 12 are like great. And then the other ones, I mean, I don't know. It depends because I'm not always writing I'm not writing 200 songs for my project too. I'm just writing. Sometimes it'll be for like a K-pop thing, or sometimes it'll be for like EDM. Like sometimes people are looking for like EDM top lines, or sometimes I'll just write like country music, which I don't really see myself personally like writing and releasing country music, but I love writing country music. And even like R&B, like I love like writing R&B music, like singer-songwriter R&B. But I would consider myself a little bit more like indie pop, but I still love to write so many different styles, I guess, that might not feel 100% like me. Um, I think if anything, like it actually encourages me as like an artist to go even more and get even more creative with like my own sound, or I don't know if that makes sense. Like the more I
Yeah.
diversify, the more
Yeah,
I
because
can
you're
really
you're
yeah.
like strengthening these other muscles and it like helps build your greater muscles.
Yeah, yeah. Um
Okay. I see you.
yeah.
So what's different when you're writing for all these different genres? Like, do you have to prepare yourself separately, or like what is the greatest difference when you're writing in different genres? Like an R&B
um
track versus country outside of just the sound.
yeah, I think the lyrics a little bit maybe sometimes, well, but even then I'm not really sure. I mean, K-pop is purely like a melodic kind of thing. So for me that's just like a fun melody exercise, because they translate the lyrics, and they're not too picky with it. But a lot of different genres, like I know like country can be very very like big on lyrics. R&B too, like I think sometimes there's certain things you can't really, like it's almost like a language, like even though it's all English, like it's still like it's like the way people say like certain phrases, it's, do you know what I mean? And I think like a lot of times, like when I do those kind of sessions, I do a lot better with co-writers, because when I'm alone doing my own thing, it's gonna be like a Maroon song to a T. So even if I did like if I was like left alone to like write like in an up tempo R&B song, it's gonna sound like if Maroon did R&B, which honestly
Right.
like I might do that one day, but like um but if I were to co-write it with somebody, it almost sounds like it's a mesh of me and this other person in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I have one song that came out with Flowrider and shoot, what is his name? He's like a country dude. I'm forgetting his name. But that song, what is his name? Hold on, I actually want to look it up. This is gonna bother me. Sorry.
No, you're good.
But that song, the way that one came about was it was a co-writing session, and it was not my idea. It was hold on. Let me just look who this guy is. Walker Hayes, sorry. Okay. So
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, and the way that came about was it was me and this other guy. We had a session together, and these producers as well. And it was actually his concept. Like he kind of came in with this chorus that he really liked, and it's like a chorus melody that like I never would think of. And I mean that as a compliment. Like it's I think that's my favorite thing about collaborating with other people is like it really forces you outside of your ideas, and like your own tendencies. And I think I remembered maybe like tweaking some things here and there, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
it was very much his like idea, his concept. And we wrote the verses pretty quickly. That was pretty collaborative. Um, and yeah, and I don't know, like it doesn't really sound like a me song, if that makes sense, but it like I think because we kind of combined so many talented collaborative people, and especially because this writer, like he's very in like the country world, like he's like born and raised Nashville, like you know, kind of guy. And um, so I think kind of like it was just kind of I don't know, it just worked. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of songs like in a lot of sessions too, like if it's like for me, if it's for my own project, even if I'm collaborating with other people, because I started working with producers as well, instead of just kind of me doing all the work, which has been also fun. And I feel like when I entered those sessions, it feels more like I'm in control, like it's kind of my session, and the people in the room are catering to me. They're helping me with my vision. Whereas when I'm in a room writing for, you know, not my own project, I feel like I'm the one that's like, how can I help, you know, this session? Like, what can I, like, you know, maybe my melodies, maybe my lyrics, you know, kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. No, I get it. But do you feel like is there like a weird hierarchical shift when you're writing for others versus yourself? Like, do writers treat the projects the same regardless?
yeah, I think, especially if the artist is in the room, you know, I really kind of just let them take the lead. Like, I really like to take the back seat at that point. Especially with melodies, because like it's them that's going to be singing it. And I feel like, um, I mean, it's not just your melodies that I think makes you stand apart as an artist, but I think it kind of helps. And I think especially, you know, because I know how I do my melodies and the way I sing is it's unique to like me. I mean, it's not the most unique,
Right.
but it's like, you know, like it is like not everybody can sing in the way that I can, and like also vice versa. Like I've worked with some artists with incredible vocals, and whenever I tried like, you know, like sing some melodies on the mic or whatever, and they would try to mimic or try to like sing that same melody, it didn't sound as good in their range, because it was like either like a little too high, too breathy, or because also my voice does like bend a lot naturally and everything. And but and so I've just kind of learned like, you know, it's when working with an artist, instead of me really taking the lead on melodies, because I think melodies is where my strengths are, I've learned it's almost better to take the back seat, let the artist really kind of like say what they want to say, let them sing what they're trying to sing, and then kind of like try to glue the pieces from there, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference between writing for other people versus like writing for yourself.
That's awesome. So who all have you written for? Like you mentioned Florida and Walker
Yeah.
Hayes.
Well, I would say that one was probably the biggest one. I've also done like Galantis, Stevie Aoki, Cascade.
Love all
Um,
those.
yeah, I've had more luck in like EDM, and you know it's funny because like at the time like I didn't understand why. I mean like I like EDM music, but like I'm not gonna be here and say like, you know, I listen to like house and dubstep. Like I don't like I like Fred again. You know, I like the mainstream stuff, but I'm not like I'm not the, you know, I'm not like going to raves and stuff. Like I'm not that kind of person. So I always
Yeah.
found it interesting that like I just somehow found luck in EDM. But now looking back, I think it makes sense because a lot of the times it was like um they're not looking to like take my song and make it theirs, if that makes sense. They're just there to take the top line I wrote and they're just going to build on top of it. And so it's like their song featuring me. And then, yeah, and that's kind of how I've been able to, I guess, get placements in that world versus working with like other artists. I feel like, yeah. But,
So what is the top line? When you say top line, what does that mean?
oh,
I don't
lyrics,
know.
sorry, lyrics and
Huh?
melody. Yeah. So
Got it.
top line means, yeah, yeah. Because usually with DJs, a lot of the times, like, they're just looking for something to build on top of. So they're just looking for like simple like guitar vocal or like piano vocal, you know, and then they'll add like their drums, their synths, their, you know, vocal effects and all that kind of stuff. And I would say I have way more success in like that world. And I think it makes sense now because I'm like, well, I write like I write like an artist, at the end of the day.
And they work with a lot
Like
of indie pop or that kind of sound, that more poppy sound.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So those are all I
Okay.
work for.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Okay. So in terms of your inspirations, who's like the people that you look up to in this space, whether that's singing, songwriting, or as an artist in general?
Um, a constant one for me has always been Imogen Heap. Because she uses like all her own vocals. Like I don't know, like she to me when I think of vocoder, I think of her. And she's also like a female producer too, which I think really like kind of inspired me to want to produce. Also like Grimes is somebody else that I've been very inspired by as of late. I didn't know she produced all her own music.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. I've been very inspired by just women, and women who write and produce. Chloe Bailey's another one too. She writes and produces her own music. Um, I think I really want to try to get more in that, like, I don't know if I see myself really producing for other people, but I definitely see myself producing for me. And I think just watching, especially women, because I think, like, I think there still is such an unevenness with the amount of men that are in production versus women that are in production. And I feel like there are more and more women coming up though. And I actually did a session the other day with like these two women on Zoom, and it was such a refreshing. Nothing against men, like I love men too, but like it's a different environment, when you're with the women, and it just feels I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just love women, so they always
That's
inspire me.
amazing.
Yeah.
So are you just self-teaching yourself like on the production side, or what are you doing to like gain these new skills?
No, I'm just teaching myself.
That's awesome.
I've done vocal production for a while, and I feel like that kind of gave me a little bit of a head start, as far as production goes, because I feel like once you know how to vocal produce, um, it's you can kind of use that same concept with like other, um, like instrumentations. I think it's really the mixing that is like the biggest that's kind of like the biggest learning curve is how to mix.
Mm.
And I think the only way you can do that is just by just writing songs every day and just kind of producing. And that's why I always try to give myself 3 hours. I'm like, you got 3 hours, you got to write it, record it, just do it. And if it
Amazing.
sucks, it's okay. you know so
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess let's talk a little more about like some of the sounds that you pick up because you did mention Ethiopian music does influence the type of sounds that you're making.
Hmm.
Kind of tell me about like how much of it influences your world and like, what do you pick from your culture versus like what you pick from like mainstream everyday to day culture?
Yeah. um I feel like as far as like sonics go, I feel like I listen to I think a lot of the reasons too why I'm so like inspired by like Bon Iver, even Hosier too, and more folk artists is because there is so much. When I listen to a lot of Ethiopian music, specifically like traditional hymn kind of music, it is very folk leaning. Or I mean, honestly, probably the other way around because Ethiopia has been around longer. But
Fair, yeah.
there's just a lot of similarities because they both use the pentatonic scale, and I feel like especially like last year, I think last year I really wanted to kind of like kind of hone in my sound. Well, that's not true. Last year I just kind of wanted to put out more music and just kind of like get in the habit of just like writing, producing, and just releasing, and just kind of see how that would go. And with that, I kind of realized like I really do love a lot more like folk leaning kind of music, kind of instrumentations. A lot of like Ethiopian instrumentations do kind of sound similar, same but different, to like a lot of folk leaning instruments like banjos, and things like that. There's this one instrument that I'm obsessed with. It's called the karar, and
Oh, is that the
I
long like
yeah.
what? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't play that. It's so hard. I want to. Like, I want to go to Ethiopia and buy one so bad, but I don't know how I can like bring that back or anything.
You
'Cause
can,
it's so big. I'd have to get. I mean, I probably could. I would just have to prepare. You know what I mean? Like, get a lot of suitcases ready to go.
yeah, just
But
like, yeah, I wonder if anybody makes them here. Probably not. I mean, who
the
knows?
only I found a website in Germany, and so I bought
That's
one.
awesome.
But it doesn't sound good. It sounds very like I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't sound very pleasing because then when I went to
Yeah.
Ethiopia later that year and I would hear like actual karars, I'm like, oh wait, no, these sound way better than like whichever one I bought from this German website. Like, no.
Wait, what? So is it that they have a similar instrument, or they're literally making like Ethiopian
No, it's all
instruments
karars.
in
Yeah.
Germany?
Yeah.
Why? What?
It's good. It's not good. I'll save you the money. Don't buy it. It's not good.
I mean, it's not like I was planning to because I cannot play, but that's funny. Wait, that's hilarious. Now I need to look this up. Wait, so do you play other instruments though?
I play a little bit of piano. I actually started guitar lessons like a month ago, almost 2 months ago now.
Amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like the more like if you can play instruments, you can produce. Like you can really do anything if you can learn how to play an instrument. But yeah, no career though, unfortunately. One day.
We'll work on it. It's okay. We'll figure it out. What's next for you? Where do you want to go? Where is your ultimate goal?
I think my ultimate goal is, it sounds so cheesy, but like if I can just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, I'm like very happy with that. Like especially with my artist project, I hate calling it a project because it's not a project. It's who I am. It's it's the music I'm putting out. But like I like the songs that I put out in my artistry. I just want to be in a position where I can always put out music, and I'm just grateful for anybody like you. Like it really means a lot that you would like reach out and say how much you liked the songs and
I loved it. I loved it. I was obsessed. I was listening to it yesterday on the way to get lunch. I was like nonstop playing it. Yeah.
that really, really means a lot. And that's kind of what I want to continue to do. And I feel like every year that I keep doing this, I meet more and more people who, find my music, and it really means the world. Like when people say like, oh, like I heard your song, blah, 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 and, it's great. Like, any new music coming out? And I'm like, whoa, that's so awesome. You care about the stuff I'm putting out. Like, it's such a honor to like mean like like to have songs like mean something to someone, to resonate in any way, like and if I can just kind of keep doing that, like honestly, like I'll be so happy.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, really. It's funny you said the whole like emotional aspect of your music, because the one like immediately when I went through your entire like catalog, I felt like you described every emotion so perfectly in each song, and I was like, I resonate, but also felt like I was there with you. Like I went through it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but like you capture it so well. I think through the melody and the lyrics combined, it just feels like you're there. Like I know that time and place you're in when you're going through that. Yeah. And I showed it to my mom, and she was like, this girl is amazing. And I was like, yeah. I was like, what? Like, this girl needs to be everywhere.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited.
That really means a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
But-
Well, is there anything else you want to cover? Like, what do you want to get out of this?
I mean, I think right now, like I said, I'm really kind of just in the creating phase right now. I think last year, like I was just putting out a bunch of music just to kind of see. I think I did it more for me to kind of like figure out like who am I as an artist, who, like what kind of music do I want to put out, like, all that kind of stuff. And I think after all of that, I think I've kind of realized like I actually want to take my time a little bit more, and not forever, I'm definitely gonna put out music like this year, but like I just kind of want to, instead of trying to drop a song like every month, I think I just want to take my time a little bit and get a body of work that I'm really proud of. And yeah, I don't know, and just keep dropping music. I just want to write. I love songwriting more than anything. Nothing makes me happier than writing. So as long as I'm doing that and putting out music, that's all I want.
That's amazing. Well, I can't wait till your next project. Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank
that means a
you.
lot.
Yeah.